They say sequels are never as good as the original. Well, we're putting that to the test as we bring you our top 5 alternative hits of the 90s, part 2. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. A fun time to be had by all if we're doing this right. Host and listener alike, Eric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are again.
Theoretically, everybody should be having a good time. So,
they should.
Well, I can't think of an episode where I haven't had a good time. It's always enjoyable.
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes
anytime with you, Dean, in the room, no.
It's interesting. it's interesting. We'll leave it at that, and we'll build on that from there. So, we decided, this was we're not ones for sequels, and we bemoan sometimes how shitty sequels are, and there's a few that are really good, but our top 5 alternative hits of the 90s is our most popular episode, bar none. Right? There are none that are close to this episode in popularity. I think one of the reasons is I listened to it. I was in really good voice. I really had command, managing the guests really well.
Guests?
I think that the guests, the guest and the co-host, managing him really well as well. And I think I think it's that people that listen to the episode that really got through to them. And they may have said, I want to listen to this again. And maybe one more time to make sure.
You're probably right.
What do you think?
I don't know. What do you think, Christy, our special guest?
Oh, wait. We've got a guest with us.
Yeah,
in order to keep, I'm a somewhat superstitious person. So if we're going to do a part 2 to our most popular episode, we need to recreate the same circumstances that the first one took place in.
So you wore the same underwear.
So, actually, yes. So we welcome Christy Cuomo to this episode as well. Back then, it was her very first episode. She was very shy. She was very meek. Now she is the world destroyer and the destroyer of people.
Christy, was that your first with us?
Yes. Yeah, that was her first.
If it wasn't my first,
I believe it was.
It was one of my first.
I believe it was her first one, and now she is the destroyer of guests.
I don't destroy guests. I am kind and gentle.
Put her in a room to debate, and she'll come out wiping the blood off her knife. So welcome, Christy.
It's a testament to how it's been. We're well into our 3rd year, and it's just getting more and more fun, more comfortable. People are really enjoying coming on and just having a good time. As you say, Dean, it's a great hang.
Yeah.
Right. Just really great, like-minded people who come on and just like to share their views on this stuff. So,
and have some laughs at our own expenses. And that's fun as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, let's, like I said, this episode, bar none. So I don't know if it's a demographic thing.
It's a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why alternative hits of the 90s is something that people pick up on. We do a lot of top 5s to be, we do a fair share of top 5s, and they do okay. But this one is just there's something about it. So I figured, let's test the theory if we can capture lightning in a bottle. And do another 5 because I think Eric, did you go back and listen to that episode?
I did.
Yeah.
Actually, a couple times.
Yeah. And Christy listened to it, right? And we lament, as we do with every episode, how can I pick just 5? Well, we're actually giving ourselves an opportunity to revisit the subject.
Yeah.
And see what comes up, Christy. So, was it more difficult for you?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm never doing this again. This was so hard. So hard. I literally, I'm still shuffling. This was so, So I told you guys the other day that I had 44 songs. I didn't know how I was going to get to 5, and then I just kept adding songs. And
Sure.
like I have a Spotify playlist, like 90s alternative part 2, that I've been listening to, and this was difficult. This was really difficult. We cannot do this a third time. I don't care how well it does.
I think
this was stressful.
And we did make
very stressful.
one parameter. In order to make this fun and dynamic, is we cannot repeat any artists from the previous one. It just doesn't make any sense, because then otherwise, like, what's the point of it? What's the point of doing that? So really the only guardrail was Pearl Jam was in the last one, and whoever else was in there. Just, we don't want to bring those groups back for second helpings, right? It just doesn't make sense. So this way, and
there's plenty to go around.
There's plenty to go around. And B, we did make a playlist at the time. So what we're going to do is, instead of making a second playlist, we're just going to add this to that playlist and make it part 1 and 2. So this way, this is going to be like a killer, an absolutely killer playlist.
So
I hope so.
I know you've done a lot of top 5s, and I know you've covered, I think the 70s, 80s. And I re-listening to this, and again, I'm sentimental about the time period, which I talked about in the first episode. So it certainly is a time period I relate to, and I'm I just feel very connected to. It was a very good episode. It was a very good conversation, and we'll talk about it again. The music that came out of this time period is so good. It's just so good, which is why paring it down to 5 is so, for me, incredibly hard. Like, it almost would have been easier if you allowed me to put Pearl Jam on, because I could have taken the easy way out. It just made it more difficult for me not being able to be like, I'm just going to go with Pearl Jam.
Eric, what about you? Was it as daunting?
I came at it a little bit differently this time. You'll be pleased to know that I might have been a little bit more objective with this list this time out. You know how I am.
Cheers to that.
However, I can guarantee, I could tell you this, with every song that I chose comes from a fantastic, an even better album.
Good.
And as I listened to the songs, like I did the same thing, Christy. I put a playlist together on Spotify for myself. I had about maybe 20 down to 15, and then it was a good solid 10 for a while. So I figured, I just kept switching them out. Like, what's going to be my honorable mentions? I didn't know how many we would be talking about. And then, of course, I have backup tracks in case there is a little bit of overlap. Perhaps, I don't know if we're going to pick the same songs, but we might pick the same group.
Yep.
So I think that might be a good idea to maybe have some backup there, so we don't have, like you say, Dean, we're repeating, but I could guarantee each one of my 5 comes from just fantastic albums, because I've been listening to these albums for the last 2 weeks.
That's interesting.
And that
makes me kind of think now of, okay.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Interesting. I have to admit, I may have had an unfair advantage, because I use an outline for every show. And I write my notes in the same outline, and I have everything. And I went back to the outline from the original show. And back then, nowadays, when Eric and I do a top 5, we do like 5 extra, like, honorable mentions. Back in that episode, I think we did 1 each. Right? So I think
we just mentioned one.
Yeah, we just did one. We did 1 each.
Right.
And I had a bunch of honorable mentions. And to my surprise, or maybe not surprising, 3 of those honorable mentions made this list. Like, I still felt.
Yeah.
Like,
that's great.
These were contenders. So 3 just kind of really leapt back in. Once I realized, I'm like, wait, I have the notes. Let me go back and see what that was. 3 of them just transplanted right in there.
That's really, that's great.
Yeah, I still felt strongly enough that these, they had those other 5 not existed and these were here, I still feel like like this could have been in the first episode. So I don't feel like, oh, these are kind of has-beens or second fiddles. These were really a strong and were in contention back then. So
two of the songs on my list were I thought about the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put them on a list though. Not even an honorable mention. They didn't quite make it. But this time around, and again, I listened to the song. And then I'm kind of struggling because there's, a couple of these, there's a couple of great songs off the same album. And I'm kind of like, I want this one instead of that one. And it's just, and they were singles. I chose the singles from these records and not some really deep cuts, obscure. We didn't want to go to that deep in the well there. But yeah, I'm proud of this list. I think it's let's go. I'm ready. And I'm really curious to see what you guys came up with this time around. So I'm excited.
If we have any overlaps, I have about 51 or 49 songs, so I'm not worried about it.
You have the backups for. Okay.
Yeah, I do. And like Eric was just saying, there are legit and some of my in the top 5 songs on here are from albums that from start to finish are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal albums.
I think
where you're not skipping a song.
Right.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I don't know if I can say the same. So there might be a hint in there as well. So without further delay or adieu, let's get it started. So Eric, why don't you kick us off with number 5?
All right.
Of
so
the top 5 alternative hits of the 90s, part 2. So if you're touching this one for the first time, you have to go listen to the first part to get the first top 5s, and then you can add to this one. So go for it.
All right. So my number 5 is short-lived band. Actually, I think that's not true. They're still touring together, but they sadly lost their lead singer after their second record due to the excess of the time. Shannon Hoon, it's from Blind Melon. I didn't pick No Rain. Now, as good as that album is, I prefer the second, Soup, which did not do well at all when it came out. It was really panned, and I think 3 weeks later he died of an overdose. But this album just musically is just so fucking good. I mean, it's just everything that I like in as far as like late 60s, early 70s, that soulful sort of mountain jam type stuff, which is what they would have done had they continued on. They would have been that type of band. I know they play in the jam band circuits and things, touring with a lot of other people, playing festivals, but sadly without Shannon Hoon, that vocal. And the song I chose was Toes Across the Floor. And this song was, this got a lot of airplay, I remember, in the early 2000s when I was working in Tampa at Best Buy. We had an alternative station that would play this song all the time. I think I probably heard this more than I heard No Rain. And I just friggin' love it. It just speaks to the, him speaking of the times. And of course, unfortunately, those times, nothing's changed. It talks about, mass shootings and things, fucked up things that are going up in the world. And it's just one guy's perspective about that. And it's just, why isn't anybody listening? Why isn't anybody feeling the way I feel? And the song just kind of takes it and lifts you there, and it just takes you in that stratosphere. And it's just like this really, it kicks in, and there's like a flute going on in the background, little Jethro Tull action, which is fantastic. Oh yeah. And then it also reminds me of the Chamber Brothers tune, Time Has Come Today. Same riff, same sort of the same rhythm. Especially by the end of the song, you'll know what if you have time, go back and listen to that song, Time Has Come Today, and then listen to Toes Across the Floor, and you'll see the similarities there, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, fantastic song from a fantastic album, greatly underappreciated. It's dark, but it's just so good. So
yeah, Shannon Hoon was another one of the casualties of.
Yeah,
I don't know what episode we've talked about. Any of the alternative episodes, we talked about how many of the grunge pioneers or leaders of these bands died from heroin overdoses.
It was our first episode. We talked about it a lot.
Yeah, or even the Nirvana one. It's just like all these. That's unfortunately kind of is part of the legacy. is that a lot of these people, just, some made it past, Chris Cornell made it past the 90s, but then, unfortunately, but a lot of these guys in the 90s or in the early 2000s just, didn't make it. It was just really
success
horrible,
just came too quick, I guess. They just didn't know how to deal with it, because they're trying to just make good music, and they I guess they didn't know, how to deal with all the red tape and everything else. So I don't know.
And Shannon Hoon had a very unique voice too. Like his, they had an interesting space to occupy, in that, in that grunge /alternative pop genre. With No Rain, that kind of put him on the kind of like the hippie map a little bit, like with Rusted Root and Send Me on My Way. It was kind of like those kind of flowery, crunchy granola guys, but they were able to rock out too. And their second album was decidedly different. So that's a good choice. All right, let's going on to the playlist, the first addition to the new playlist. So Christy, what do you got for number 5?
Number 5, I went with REM. Try Not to Breathe off of Automatic for the People. Not the most popular song on the album, but a sentimental favorite for me. And that is one of the albums I was talking about where there's not one bad track on this album.
Yeah.
This album is killer. If you've never listened to it, just listen to it. Try Not to Breathe was a sentimental favorite for me because it came out a couple of years before my father died, but I was able to relate to it. And so the story goes, is about Stipe's grandmother dying and stuff, but it just, the imagery that, again, kind of like what we talked about in the first episode, it's all REM's music is kind of a lot more poetic, again, to me before it's anything else. So just the lyrics, his voice, it's haunting. It just brings you into this like realm. And the whole album is really dark. It's not a uplifting album. It has a lot of dark undertones to it. And I don't think they were hiding that. Yeah. So, but again, another band, I think they all survived. I think they retired. They're not making music anymore, but this was another band.
They were solid.
Like Pearl Jam, where unlike Blind Melon or Nirvana or any of these other bands we will reference, that we referenced in the first episode and this one, they didn't succumb to the too fast, too soon, and just consumption of everything. They kind of kept their wits about them, and that I hate to say it.
So far for this list, we're only 2 in, but REM is the original college alternative. They kind of, are the you look up college alternative 80s in the dictionary and you're going to see REM. I mean, that was what they kind of, created that genre. So they were kicking around in the 80s as college alternative. And then, in the 90s kind of continued that and were on the alternative edge.
They weren't, I wouldn't have ever considered them grunge. They weren't grunge, alternative rock. No. They kind of led the way for bands like OAR, who were college-based bands that,
That's right.
Yeah. So if you think about, bands like that, but this, again, fantastic. I don't know how many people would be familiar with this particular song, but listen to the whole album. It's just,
of course.
Yeah.
It's just
that was the follow-up to Out of Time.
They were just solid all the way through, and I'm sure they had their ups and downs. I think we might have pointed that out in that episode, Dean. But they just stayed true to what they were doing. I would argue too that they're probably precursor to like a lot of the indie folk bands that are out there now. Indie bands that actually, are like
they were pretty close to an REM reunion because Mike Mills and Peter Buck are in a band together with a couple of other band people, and they tour and they do songs about baseball. Actually,
yes, we talked about
And the band is called Baseball Something, and they play in small theaters around in the area. I don't think they do REM stuff, but
that's interesting.
It's depending on how many members of REM you're going to talk about, it's either a half reunion or a 2/3 reunion, because Bill Berry left on his own accord. Early on. So, but who knows? Maybe one day they'll get back together. But that's a great choice from the people. All right, here we go. one-hit wonders. So
these are not coming from songs.
These are not coming from great albums.
He's still okay. One of my songs.
Hey, but that makes it all the better, man. We got this nice eclectic mix going on. Well,
these are those songs that kind of popped up.
Yeah.
That created the landscape for those other for those big albums like Chili Peppers, where there was a lot of songs, and all these other groups. This group is called Sponge, and the song is Plowed. And it came out in 1994, hit number 5 on Modern Rock Tracks. And to me, it epitomizes what the sound of grunge is. You know, it was a popular song in the alternative, charts. It was actually in the film Empire Records, but it did not make it to the soundtrack. So if you watch Empire Records, it's played there, but it's not on the soundtrack. Oh, I couldn't tell you what scene. It's probably in the background.
Eric's which scene?
No, I
watched the fucking movie to find that,
musical moments, man. My next
which scene? Hang on, let's pause the show for an hour and a half. I'm gonna watch it.
Honestly, anyone listening to this episode should watch Empire Records. Phenomenal.
It's a great film.
It's a great film. It's a movie of the 90s. Yeah, it's of its time, but
it's of its time.
My Plowed is guitar heavy. It's got that growly, grungy vocal. The vocalist, now that I think about it, kind of reminds me of Scott Weiland, of Stone Temple Pilots, of Core. Of the song Core. He's got that growl.
Okay.
To it.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to place it.
When you hear it, when you hear it on the playlist, you're gonna know it because it was a popular.
Yeah.
It's got this, the guitar in the beginning is like, and it's just it just takes off, and it's just one of those ones that stays with me. And this one reminds me of in 94, still in my 20s, kind of still reminds me of being young. I was like, okay, I can put myself in that time in the 90s and kind of remember when it was out. So there's number 5 for me is Sponge, and the song is Plowed. That could be confusing because they're both one plowed, like a field plowed. What do you got for number 4?
And in the notes, Dean, on Spotify, can you please put in there what scene in Empire Records for Eric it was in?
I'll have to find it.
Yeah, you have to.
Please,
you got it.
The
scene where
please reference it somewhere for Eric.
If there's a clip on YouTube, I'll put a link to the actual clip of where it is in the film.
All right. Well, my next choice is from a movie, and that's the first time I heard it, and it's a bit more upbeat. See if you can guess the artist when I say the word quirky. All right, she's a female artist, and her
Lisa
album.
Loeb, Torn? I mean,
nope.
Lisa Loeb, not Torn. Lisa Loeb. Stay.
Nope. Funnily enough, the name of the album is Debut, and it's Finland's own Bjork.
Oh, okay.
With Venus as a Boy is the name of the track. And it was I first heard it in this came out in 93. The album, but I first heard it in The Professional. Leon the Professional. It's the scene with the little montage where she's taking care of him, and he's training her. He's starting to train her how to use a gun, but meanwhile he's taking care of his plant, and she's buying the milk, and they play this little sweet song in the background. And I just love that track. It's just so catchy and poppy and just bizarre and weird, and she's speaking Finnish in it, and it's just but it speaks to the idea of like a relationship, but she's concentrating on the male perspective, and she's admiring how much the boy in this situation sees the beauty in everything, which is is kind of rare for a guy to he's kind of hides his feelings, his emotions. But if you watch, it kind of reminds me of the film, Leon being such a child, and he's this cold-blooded killer, and here he's taking sweet care of this plant. The roots and all that stuff. So it just reminds me of that. And that was actually one of the songs I first thought of, in the first time go around, but I decided not to go there. But I was glad to put it on this list. Yeah. It's a sweet little tune.
That was a holdover for you.
Yeah. The album is just really good. I mean, it's just, I like weird stuff, and it's just, She was from a band called the Sugar Cubes, which is decidedly more rock and slightly more on the punk edge, as well, post-punk or whatever. But, then she started experimenting with dance beats and trip hop and electronica and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, the album's just really, really, really good.
Nice.
Just
catchy. I was into the Sugar Cubes back in the mid to late 80s when they first came out. Mm-hmm. It was weird and it was quirky, and there was also a guy, it was like kind of more of a group. And there was a guy singer as well, and it was kind of really weird and strange. And I have the CD of their first thing, and then she went on her own and broke
off on her own, and she
became her own thing.
I just remember the first time I saw her on SNL. I'm like, she's dressed in like the pigtail, like she looked like a little anime character, like one of those, dressed in the weird like fur and like the big shoes, the platform shoes.
She's dressed as a swan.
And that's part of the 90s, right? I mean, that's alternative in itself. It's just, but it's alternative pop or dance. I think there's a term for that as well. So yeah, why not?
What's the title? What's the name of the song again?
The name of the song is Venus as a Boy.
Venus as a Boy.
Cool. Yeah. I ate Sugar Cubes for a while in the 90s.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Do kids still do that?
I think I'd
maybe pack.
I don't. Dean was. I mean, I don't know. You were into sugar for a while there. I mean, drinking
the funny thing is, I wasn't really into sugar, but I'd be like, I'll have a Sugar Cube.
I don't think I could do it.
It's there.
I think I did it maybe when I was really little. I ate a couple of kids. I couldn't do it.
Is that what you're talking about?
Couldn't do it.
Yeah, I remember chewing on. It wasn't like a regular thing. I mean, I sucked on lemons a lot more than I ate Sugar Cubes, but
okay.
I'm just giving you a little insight to what's going on in my world. That's all.
Eating Sugar Cubes and eating lemons.
Just letting you in. That's all.
There we go, little by little.
And then once you're in, that knife.
And on that note, what's your number 4?
My number 4. My number 4 is Bittersweet Symphony, The Verve.
Oh, controversial song. Very
controversial. It is. I didn't know about this, actually. I didn't know that Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. Yes. But in 2019, they seeded. They were like, they took, I think they took their names off of it and gave them full rights. But was it because of a riff or something, like a guitar riff or something?
What it is it's that violin riff in the beginning that,
Well, yeah, you can't steal music. I mean, Ice Ice Baby.
But it was a roundabout theft because that was sampled from a classical album from a guy in the 60s that did like classical versions of Rolling Stones songs. So they took that riff from that thing. So
why do I feel like you told me about that band?
I don't know. It wasn't like a direct theft. It was kind of like a sample of. It was sampling copyrighted music, but not the direct recording that Stones did. But it was still their music that they wrote.
Just talking about theft and artistry. I'll be honest. Like there is very little that you don't. If you're a writer or a painter or a musician, you're being inspired by something. You're always stealing a little bit and making it your own. I just find it difficult that you're not. So probably to what Dean's saying, it was a roundabout way of theft.
Andy could tell you that much at least. As an artist, he would agree.
It wasn't. They weren't claiming they were innocent.
But this is a great song. This song comes on and it brings you back to a time period. It's about the tragedy of life, and you work until you die. And I think especially like if you were, when did it come out? 97. So early 20s, and you're starting to get into the workflow of things after school, getting out of school and everything, being done with that part of your life. It just spoke to me, but it's just a catchy tune. It really is. It's
that's what the Stones lawsuit was. It's catchy because of that riff.
It very well might be.
Like it's not a very big part of the song, but that's why they're saying that's what makes the song. Is that?
But it's also
that's because that's what you remember. You can't get that out of your head for the rest of the day. Once you hear it, that's in your head.
But what's interesting about this song is it's both melancholy and upbeat. Like they really pull it off because they're talking about being a slave to money till you die. They're talking about capitalism. They're talking about a lot of deep things about just the tragedy of life and then death.
Yeah.
But you're singing it and you're like kind of like bopping to it because so it's like it's a little manic. Should you be so happy when you're singing this song? I don't know, but I am. And it's just a great tune, and it just transports you back in time. And I don't think they had. I think this was it. Really, their big hit. I don't think they had.
That's pretty much it. The Rolling Stones song was called "The Last Time." So just so you know, someone
and I'll listen to it just to see if I could hear it.
Yeah, we could put it in the show notes as well.
Well, we spoke about, we said this several times, right? I mean, the 90s brought back that a lot from the 70s, the early 70s, late 60s period. You hear a lot in this music, I think. Yeah. I mean, there's a little something there for every band. Certainly, a couple more tracks on my list have that as well. So, but I'll get to that. But yeah, I mean, it recalls a time that was special to Dean and I. We grew up with that, but hearing this stuff sort of, even if it's just subliminal, even if you think you heard it and it's not really there, but you think it is, kind of just a little riff or something that just reminds you and takes you back to that one track, and you could just listen to an entire song as a result of that. Like my first pick was that's the effect that I had. I just thought of that song. It was Time Comes Today, and it's just And I think you'll agree if you just put them side by side. I don't know if that was the intent, but it might have been. Who knows? So anyway, Dean,
my number 4. Hey,
Dean's here. Shit. Oh,
this one was a holdover from the last list, and it's the Cranberries' Zombie.
Oh, thank you.
And it should have. I really. It physically hurt me to not have it on the first list.
Thank you so much.
It came out in 1994. Yeah. It was number 1 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart. A very political song in the response to the death of two children that were killed in IRA bombings. Dolores O'Riordan was like, for me, when I heard this was like Sinead O'Connor reincarnated. It was the best parts of what I loved about Sinead O'Connor when we did our Sinead O'Connor episode. The way, her vocalizations or the way she sings, very much in that lane, which immediately drew me to Cranberries. I was like, what is this? It's reminiscent of Sinead O'Connor. By 94, Sinead O'Connor was going off into different things, and kind of, the backlash had taken place. So the Cranberries come and they're putting that kind of vocal style onto these alternative, upbeat songs like "Linger" and "Dreams" and all this other stuff.
"Linger's" a great song.
But "Zombie" is just like, it's haunting. It's it's heavy. It's got heavy guitar. There's a lot to it. And I think it's probably one of the best of what they have to offer. I mean, I like a lot of their other stuff too. "Ode to My Family" and other great stuff, but "Zombie" kind of is that heavy, haunting thing that kind of sticks with you. And again, to hear that kind of Irish influenced vocal style kind of put into it immediately separated it from everything else that was going on. I was like, this is something different that's going on here, which I hadn't heard since Sinead.
And that is a great album, by the way.
No Need to Argue, I think it was.
That's right.
I'm so happy you picked it. It was
on my runner-up. Yeah. What's that?
It was on my list. It's on my playlist. I'm so happy you picked it.
Yeah. It killed me to not have it the first time around. I don't know why. I kind of, as soon as I went back to that list, I'm like, okay, you're up.
Here we are.
You're on deck.
and Dean, you're right. Her voice is just
phenomenal.
What a great voice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just incredible. So all right, let's move on to number 3, Eric.
All right, number 3, longest track on my list. It clocks in at a whopping 6 minutes, that's 27 seconds. And it's an album that, frankly, I'm embarrassed to say, being the prog man that I am, never paid all that much attention to. I mean, I loved their second album, but this was OK Computer. This was Paranoid Android, Radiohead. And this is like full on change. I mean, you're talking about a band that just reinvented themselves completely. And prog is alive and well in the 90s. Here it is. You know, it's this album is just experimental to the max. This song, it's like broken up into 3 separate parts. It has all the changes that like all the best prog bands would do back in the day. I think Tom York, the vocalist, said it was 50% Bohemian Rhapsody and 50% Happiness is a Warm Gun by the Beatles. So I could kind of see that in, a little bit in there, but it's just, I guess it's he had a very strange experience in a bar, sitting in a bar with a group of people that were all just doped up on blow. They were just doing blow all night, and they just had everybody's reaction was different. Everybody was just whacked out, and it made him so like absolutely like, I have to get the hell out of here. And he was sitting next to this woman, and this is where the title of the song comes from. That's where he started thinking about some of the lyrics, and she looked at him like with lifeless eyes. There's like her eyes just looked like they went completely dark, and she looked like a machine, like an android. Like, and he just thought of that title like right off the bat as a result of that. And it was just a very strange, surreal type of thing. And the album reflects that whole surrealism effect. And I've been listening to that thing nonstop. And Tom York, again, the vocal, I mean, you talk about a great vocalist. This, he went on to inspire a lot of different you think about Chris Martin from Coldplay, you think about Matt Bellamy from Muse, James Blunt even, I think he was inspired by them. Justin Hawkins from The Darkness. So these like high falsetto type singers, right? In the 2000s that came out of the woodwork. And he apparently wasn't too happy about that, Tom York. He was like, these guys are ripping me off, they're ripping off my style. And I think it was like his producer or something said, listen, you got to let that shit go, man. Yeah. You're inspiring them.
Exactly. What's the problem?
So
Eric, I'm going to give you a bell for Justin Hawkins.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. He's got
a great YouTube channel. If you like music and from the darkness, he's got a YouTube channel. It's called Justin Hawkins Rides Again.
Yeah.
He listens to new music, and and he's a really great musician and just a really funny guy to listen to. But yeah. Radiohead was kind of out on the fringes of that scene. They were more the artsy and more the weird, the more kind of,
and they would do better
of it. They had
later albums they would carry that on, and they would actually improve upon it. But this was the breakthrough.
I had two.
And it's considered one of the.
I had 2 of their songs on my list. I mean, 2 of the popular songs, but I liked Radiohead. I mean,
their first album was full on. They were just another grunge band aside from Creep.
Yeah.
The rest of the album was kind of blasé and compared to what everybody else was doing. And then I loved the second album. I thought that was a great album. And then this thing is just so completely.
Yeah, they kind of had to find their niche, and that was that was the thing we talked about. A lot of these bands in the beginning, Stone Temple Pilots sounds like Pearl Jam, and they all sound, and then they started to kind of create their, kind of find their own way, but Radiohead kind of went way out there, really kind of, going into territory that other bands weren't even going, more atmospheric and kind of,
and again,
a groove of things, almost like great Deadish of that,
Well, we talk about the bands decidedly going back sort of and more analog sound. Here they did the opposite. They started experimenting with digital tools, but yet at the same time they were using OG like instrument like Mellotron and stuff like ELO was using back in the 70s, the voices, the eerie vocals, and getting those effects, and just putting it all together and just creating some really, really interesting stuff. It's just fantastic.
Radiohead. Christy, so far your list is safe?
Well, I'm happy Radiohead made
every
it.
Time one of us starts to...
Well, my list is safe, but a lot of people that didn't make it to the top 5, but were on my very large list are making it. So I'm very happy about that.
All right. So what do you have for number 3?
Well, now I have to make my choices.
I hope you have them written down.
I do have them written down, but
using them on the fly as we're going?
No, it was difficult. This was not easy. This is not. I probably went a little bit more, like mainstream. So I'll put for number 3. I'll do Bush Glycerine. And 16 Stone for me was another one of those albums that I personally don't think there's a bad song on it. It was a band I saw a lot. I think I saw them like 4 or 5 times. I saw Bush a lot in concert. But this was a great song. I mean, just again, the lyrics, I think it's about his girlfriend at the time. Although they always say it's about something, and then when they're not with that person anymore or a situation changes, they're like, oh, no, it wasn't about that. It was about this. So I don't know what most people say it was about a girlfriend at the time, but I mean, even Couldn't Love You More, You Got a Beautiful Taste, which was, I think, the lyric that got me sold on that song. Cause I'm like, what a great line. Like, couldn't love you more, you got a beautiful taste. And that was it. I was done. But Bush came on the scene and they stayed. I think they still make music. I didn't love a lot of their.
Was kind of back with
I didn't love a lot of their later on stuff, but albums. But their first couple of albums I dug and I was into them. But Gwen
Stefani ruined them.
Gwen Stefani ruins nothing.
Wow. Okay.
One of her songs is on my longer list, so glad her name got mentioned in the episode. But yeah, like this is again another album that can just transport me to a very specific time in my life, and kind of like we always talk about it, just make you feel a certain way, bring you back to your youth, give you some type of energy. So whenever these songs come up, like even, and I didn't pick Machine Head, but Machine Head comes on and you were thinking the song just is like a pure adrenaline. And then you're thinking about the movie Fear. Do you remember the movie Fear with
Mark Wahlberg?
With Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon. And like Mark Wahlberg is like the boyfriend from hell and is like, I don't know, gonna kill her.
Say hi to your mom for me.
Hi, Reese. How's it going?
Reese, what are you doing? I'm a serial killer. Did you know that? I'm going to kill your whole family. But say hi to your mom for me.
It's one of your better impersonations, actually. But so yeah, I mean that's Bush.
You are not an alternative 90s band. All right. Anyway, my number 3 is from 1999, the literal end of this era. Right. And by 1999, grunge had turned into alternative, and then alternative had turned into like alternative pop.
Please be
okay. And this song this was a carryover. This stuck in my head. When I first heard it, meaning when I very first heard it, I used to think it was, I used to get it mixed up with the song Urgent from Foreigner. Because it sounded similar. The beginning sounded similar. I'm like, is this Urgent from Foreigner? Are they taking that riff? The group is Lit, and the song is My Own Worst Enemy. I love this song. This is like pop alternative candy. It's bouncy, it's jumpy, it's guitar-y, it's all the good things that I like about the pop side of this genre. These guys, this was it. One and done. These guys went on the tour with 20 other bands afterwards. They're still going around. The lead singer, AJ Popoff, he co-wrote it, claims that he sang the song naked in the studio when he sang it. He said, I was naked when I recorded this.
Why not?
Because the song is about the day after regrets.
Well, why wouldn't you believe that?
It could be increasing the lesson, but can we forget about the things we said when I was drunk? I didn't mean to call you that. So the song is about those kind of like day after regrets that you kind of wake up and you didn't know what happened.
Baptize himself. He was naked. He was going to baptize himself, just cleanse himself of his sins in the studio.
But Lit is like the epitome of those one-hit wonders that were single file, were going through the radio waves of kind of getting their turn in line, getting a catchy song, leaving, and then the next one would come and they would have their turn at it and leave. And Lit it's just, but it's nice. It's so guitar-y and so bouncy, and it's got a great chorus. It's a song that I can kind of sing along to when I'm singing, when I'm in the car. It's kind of like, I don't care. It's got all the right components for the playlist, and for when it comes on, I'll even go back and hit it again. Like I'll listen to it. It's one of those ones that I'll double dip on. I got to hear this one again. It's like, because it's just so catchy and so bouncy, and I love that. That's right in my wheelhouse. So, so number 3, and that was number 1 on the Modern Tracks. The Modern Tracks chart was a subsection of Billboard, and it was essentially the alternative charts. That was where, like, a lot of these things that we're talking about did not hit the Billboard charts, but they hit the modern rock charts, which was tracking all that. And this was number 1 on that. So this was kind of like, for those stations that were playing this type of music, this was right there. So that was number 3, is Lit, My Own Worst Enemy.
Nice.
Ready for number 2?
Very nice. So what do you guys think? Is this better than the last one or what so far?
For me, it's a continuation. I'm happy because I'm kind of getting the ones in that didn't make it the last time. So I'm kind of apologizing. Yeah. I'm making it up to the ones that I had to say sorry to.
I don't think it's better. I think if we can do it like a top 50, I would be able to, I'd be satisfied.
We take like a year.
Yeah,
we do like a marathon, the longest.
I'm still going through like a bunch of these, and I'm like,
Right. Eric, what do you got for number 2?
Well, number 2, this is also from 99.
Look at that. All right.
Another great
Did I worry you?
Female artist.
Did I worry you when I said 99?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. You weren't worried?
No, I wasn't worried.
All right.
I honestly thought you were thinking about another song, but that's obviously not. I'm not going to mention it, so it may.
You never know. Yeah.
You never know. Her debut was great enough. She was all of 18 when she came out with it, and that was Tidal, Fiona Apple. And I prefer her second record, because at 18 you're singing about teenage angst, and there's a lot of that sort of in well within the wheelhouse of what Alanis was doing at that time. And but this album is decidedly more mature. I would say that it's almost like she aged 10 years. So musically speaking, it's so much more sophisticated. And the track is Fast As You Can, which is the first single off the record from the album When the Pawn ... The actual title of the album is a poem that goes on and on and on. I think she's got the distinction of having like the second longest album title ever in music history. And you guys are going to have to look that up, you listeners out there, because I'm not going to read it. It's this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, she just goes through, like, again, just talks about relationships, but in a much brighter way, musically speaking, but I mean, she's like broken on this record, and the song itself is about a relationship falling apart, and, the ups and downs of it. And even if you just not listen to the lyrics and just listen to the music, it takes you there. You could definitely hear, because the song kind of stops and it kind of slows down, and there's this sort of waltzy kind of soulful thing going on there. Her vocal is just, she's got that little bit of a vibrato thing going on, that little, in the middle. It's just great. And her piano skills are top notch as well. So it's very jazzy, sort of like upbeat, kind of reminds me of Ben Folds 5. It's that type of like tempo and that kind of hard kicking, like, ding, ding, like that, So yeah, that and again, I listened to the entire record, and because I love the song, and I actually had this on cassette back in the day. I used to listen to. I didn't really, dig the whole album at the time, I guess, but I dug the song. I had heard it on the radio a number of times. I saw the video, and but I revisiting it, I admire it. It's a great record.
Cool.
So
yeah, Fiona Apple was circling my list with Criminal.
Yeah,
Ooh,
was on the outer edges of the list of kind of like, fighting her way through, punching her way through. Mm-hmm. So good choice. I'm glad Fiona Apple made the list. Christy, what do you got? Number 2, right? We're up to number 2.
See, this is
what?
This is, I don't know.
Because you have these like mainstream artists who were really popular in the 90s and deserve to be in the top 5, and then you have these more than one hit wonder bands that had maybe one really killer album and then disappeared. And I haven't like, I just
give me all you got.
So I have this list in front of me, and I'm like, do I go a little bit more mainstream, or do I go the other way? And I don't know, because they both
go with your heart, go with your gut.
It should be there. It should be on your list already. Do it. You're telling me that you have actually 2 lists and you're choosing from different lists. Is that what you're saying?
No, I legitimately have 50 something songs. Okay. This was not easy. Okay. I don't know why you think I'm lying to you. I'm going to go with a little bit more obscure, and I'll tell you afterwards what would have been number 2. I'm going to do Candlebox Cover Me, which was released in 1993. And again, it was on, I think the title of the album was, it was Candlebox.
Did that have Far Behind on it?
It had Far Behind, You, and Cover Me were like the 3 hits off of it. I think one of the songs, or they wrote a song for the With Honor soundtrack, is on the With Honor soundtrack. Joe Pesci's in it, Brendan Fraser. What?
So did Lindsey Buckingham.
Yes.
Oh, he gets the same bellows as Jeff Lynne?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Just a little. It's just a little bit higher. It's 2.
Wasn't there something about ELO on Instagram today from you?
No.
Oh. So this is just another song that it's dark. It's a little haunting. It's a conversation. I think it's about faith, him and God, and just a conversation about that relationship and where he is at that point of his life. You Cover Me, and the back and forth. But this was just this. I loved this album. I don't know how many people knew about Candlebox when they came out. I don't think they were all that popular. But this guy, he had
a lot of really popular, because they had that one album had a lot of stuff on it.
Yeah, but then again, that was my point. It's like you get this one album, and then so they're not a one hit wonder, because they had legitimate hits off the album, but then they just like that, they're gone.
Yeah.
So I'll go with Candlebox, because I really dug Candlebox in the 90s. Like that album, that CD had a lot of playtime in my life.
Cool. All right, Candlebox.
I remember them. Yeah,
absolutely. As I said, Far Behind and You. Those were great. Those were great tracks as well. Again, all this was like that tapestry of music that was going on. I'm going to give you a hint for my number 2. It should be a giveaway. It should be pretty easy to guess if you're at all hip to what was going on in the 90s. If you were awake just for a fragment of time in the 90s. The Clue, Happy Days.
I know it.
Weezer,
Buddy Holly.
Yep.
One of the greatest music videos ever made. How could you not fall in love with it? It was made for people of our generation because we grew up on Happy Days.
That's right.
And it's from, so it's Weezer. The song is Buddy Holly from 1994, number 2 on the modern rock chart tracks. And interestingly enough, the single was released on Buddy Holly's, what would have been his 58th birthday. One of the greatest, most interesting music videos of all time, done without the assistance of computer-generated graphics. They did all that stuff with body doubles, with fakes, interspersing editing and stuff, but no computer-generated stuff was done with. They got Al Molinaro, who played Arnold, to come in and do the beginning part where he from Kenosha, and that was he was still alive at the time, so they got him to do that. Yeah. Anson Williams, who plays Potsy, he actually filed a lawsuit. He's like, come on, like David Geffen sent him a letter, shut the fuck up. Just fucking, enjoy. Like we're bringing, we're bringing you back into the.
We're honoring you. Yeah. We're bringing you back in the limelight.
Yeah, it's got one of the greatest choruses. Right?
There's like 4 people who know Anson Williams are. 3 of them are on this podcast. The other one's him.
And Nick Leshy.
And Nick Leshy, the professor.
But
he's actually a director now. He became like
he does a lot of TV stuff.
Even.
So David Geffen wrote him a letter. Said, "Listen, come on, just cool your jets, man." And then what happened in like 1995? What Weezer didn't know is that when Windows 95 was coming out, the Buddy Holly video was included in the operating system. And so what it meant is that all these people got to see this video for free before YouTube. It was on MTV, obviously, but it helped them because it came pre-installed with Windows, like as their sample of like videos. You get photos and stuff like that. That's the arrangement their management company made because it was cutting edge at the time. But Weezer didn't know anything about that. Then they're like, oh my God, thank God! Like it put us in all these homes. At the time, and it's got one of the greatest choruses, right? Ooh, you just like Buddy Holly. Oh, and you're Mary Tyler Moore. It's like, it's a great sing along song. When you watch the video, they got the guy doubling. It was like a stagehand or whatever on the shoot, doubling as Fonzie when he's doing the dance at the end because that was shot from behind. But it was Spike Jonze, who was a great music video director. He was like on the cutting edge of MTV. He was one of those pioneers doing stuff.
Right.
Doing stuff with the genre, doing stuff with it. Rick Ocasek, from one of the lead singers and songwriters from the Cars, was producing this album. And Rivers Cuomo, no relation to Christy.
You don't know that?
We know it.
You don't know.
He's put out a public statement. I'm not related to Christy Cuomo, who was seen on the 3324 podcast.
Was that put in the Windows?
He wrote the song. But he didn't want to record it. And Rick Ocasek was like, we're not going to put out anything that you don't like, but just record it. Just record. Like he didn't want to do it. He just didn't want to record it. And Rick Ocasek goes, just record it. We're not going to, if you don't like it, we're not going to put it out. We won't do it. They recorded it. And then the rest is history. And it just became one of those classic alternative hits along with the music video. They melded together and it just became like magic.
Dean, what you didn't mention about that song is that Rivers Cuomo called his cousin Christy Cuomo.
What did he call her?
And we had a long.
What did he call her?
We had a long discussion, and you're welcome is all I'm going to say.
You're back, okay. Did he send you to an island in the sun, or did he send you to Beverly Hills?
I can't. I signed a disclosure agreement. I'm not allowed
all right. We're ready. Are we ready for number one?
No.
We're at number one. We are here. We're at the final destination. As always, we're going to give two honorable mentions. This is all going to be rolled up into the giant playlist and added to the original alternative hits of the 90s Spotify playlist. So we're going to just cram this stuff into it. So that was like 15. It's going to be like close to 30 songs, this playlist. It probably would be more than 30 songs. So this is going to be a really nice playlist that
not going to get you to Florida, kids.
We'll put it in the show notes and we'll link it to Spotify. So Eric, uncork your number one, would you, kind sir?
I will. And by the way, this was in no particular order of preference. I just kind of, but this, I knew this album at the time when it came out. This girl that she was an employee of mine at Suncoast in Tampa, would not shut up about this album, this guy. And it's become probably one of the most devoted albums of all time. Jeff Buckley, Grace. And the song is Last Goodbye. And, at the time I was kind of like, yeah, this guy's really good. And again, the falsetto thing, the whole like high pitched vocal. But my critique of it at the time was like, this guy's just trying too hard.
Yeah.
Cause this thing, I mean, for a debut album, this thing is like lush strings and overproduction. And it's just like galore. I'm like, what is he trying to say here? I'm like, I was trying to figure it out. And upon listening to it, obviously now, then, you come to know more and it's just, I mean, he gave it his all. He really did, and Zeppelin was a major, major influence, I think, on this record. I know he was a big fan, and I know they were, and Jimmy Page and Robert Plant actually praised him for it. David Bowie said it was the greatest album ever recorded. David Bowie says that. It's high praise. Bob Dylan said he was like the best songwriter of that year or that decade or something to that effect. And then, he was tapping into all of these things. And tragically, he lost his life.
Yeah, another one.
While he was working on his second album, he drowned.
Yep.
But from what I understand, from what I hear, it was like he was acting very erratically at that point, already maybe sort of succumbing to the fame and but the album wasn't well received at first either. It wasn't critically acclaimed, and it didn't sell all that well. It was a monster in Australia. It went 4 times platinum in Australia, or 8 times platinum, by now. But yeah, in America, it just never. And now it's like considered a cult, but a masterpiece, like one of those cult classics that are just, Rolling Stone, I think it's one of the top 500 albums of all time and that kind of thing. So, and of course the legacy edition, which is the expanded, has tracks from like demos and all this stuff. Everybody's like eating this stuff up. Stuff from the second album that they started to record, I think was included on that as well. And yeah, so it was short-lived, but it's sad. It's a shame because I think he would have went far. He might have probably burnt himself out at some point, I would imagine. But yeah, I don't know where he got the money to get this album produced, because it's astounding to me the absolute lushness of this record. It's like it's something that you would record if you were well known and had been doing this for a while. It's like, so yeah, but I've been listening to it, and I'm just, it's haunting. I think even Brad Pitt even said he was really into him at the time. Like he gets in you, like his lyrics and his music just sort of like absorb you. And it's like, and he actually had to stop himself. Like he paused mid sentence when he was describing it. And he was like, because he got emotional about it. I'm like, wow. Yeah. So this, at the time I was just like, yeah, this is next gen kind of stuff, because I'm hearing the Zeppelin stuff in there. It's like, yeah, this guy's ripping off Zeppelin. Of course, that's a stupid thing to say at the time, but it's like, but now you get it. Now it's just like, influence is influence.
Yeah, so it was one of those what could have been. It was the one album that people are going to be able to hang on to from him. Tragic. Yeah, when he drowned, they found no signs of drugs or alcohol in his system, though. So it was odd. Yeah. The circumstances are kind of mysterious with what happened to him. It was like, well, yeah, was it meant? Maybe it was psychological? Maybe there was something going on. We don't know. It's just that I don't know. But he left us with that one piece of music, the album that just kind of
that's his legacy.
Another tragedy of unfortunately all too common of the 90s that we're talking about. Christy, are you ready for number one, or you have something to add to that? Or
I have something to add.
Okay.
I think his name has been mentioned enough that Brad Pitt deserves a bell.
Sorry.
No, he got mentioned on top 90s.
Budget.
Bell. Eric. Brad Pitt bell?
Eric doesn't have a bell.
I don't have a bell.
What if we get a cowbell? And every time you mention Brad Pitt, we ring the cowbell.
No, that would be for Christopher Walken. Anytime a Christopher Walken impression came up, we would have the cowbell. There's no Brad Pitt bell. There will be no Brad Pitt bell.
Well, there might be a Brad Pitt bell.
Well, Christy could get up and kiss
you can buy your own bell.
Picture in the background.
I'll buy a bell.
Go buy your own bell.
I'll buy a bell. Don't challenge me. I'll get a bell.
We'll just edit it out each time you ring it. So
I'll ring it too much.
In the end, I win.
So, because you made all these rules for this episode,
if there was one rule, just don't repeat anything. From the last
episode. If the band itself was not in the previous episode, but one of the artists within the band was in the previous episode, are you allowed to pick the band?
Do what you want.
Just have another beer, all right?
You've broken me down with all this indecision.
This was
come
hard.
Ready. Come ready with your list and stand on it.
I worked on this.
That's it.
This was like a paper, like a term.
What's your number one? Then what is it? If you have it ready, what is it?
I'm gonna go with Man in the Box, Alice in Chains off of Facelift.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a very good one, and that's why I didn't know, because I had Does that count? I have others.
You weren't going to listen anyway. You've already chosen.
I can pick something else.
No, you've already chosen. That's it.
Okay, well, that's my choice.
That's a good one. I love that one.
This song brings me back to two distinct places. Suncoast Video, because my coworker
Suncoast
at the time,
Video. Eric mentioned Suncoast.
Well, it's not a secret. We all worked at Suncoast Video.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Dean forgot.
Now the secret's out.
That deserves a couple of bells. Ding, ding.
Yeah.
There's no Suncoast bell either. This isn't a bell just for like anything. Oh, like the bell isn't. All of a sudden the bell for this and no. There are specific things that the bell is for. Otherwise,
for whom the bell tolls will be determined.
We're ringing the bell the whole time. The bell has no meaning.
Jeff Lynne is the only specific.
If we're ringing a bell every time somebody says something, then the bell has no meaning, and the bell has been diminished.
I think we should have a bell meeting, and we can say maybe vote.
So hang on. So can Christy get a whistle or a bell when she mentions Pearl Jam?
No,
or if I mention.
All right, this is how it works. Jeff Lynne. That's it.
No, you did it for Lindsey Buckingham.
Lindsey
it seems
Buckingham.
to be whatever. Is this not a democracy?
That's it. There's no other bell. That's it. There will be no other bell.
What about a bear horn?
I don't even know what that is. A bear horn?
Yeah, if a bear's in the woods, you ring the horn.
I don't get the bell to begin with. I never did. So I.
For what, Jeff Lynne?
Yeah. Okay.
It's to wake people up to know that he's being mentioned.
Okay, well.
Buried in my shit.
Take a moment and pause. Back to Alice in Chains.
I said, buried in my shit, deny your maker.
Yeah.
So
I love his vocal. His vocal is so creepy in this song.
It's great. And then the talk box was a big thing. The album came out in 90. The talk box with the wah wah, which who'd they take that from?
Joe Walsh or Peter Frampton? Those are
I
the only two that we
I think it was
Frampton.
I think it was Frampton that they took it from. But it's again another one of those songs where is it about drug addiction? Is it about censorship? Is it about being a vegetarian? Kind of the comparisons of being this calf is in the box and just keeping it there and buried in shit. So there's a lot of symbolism in the song itself, but it takes me again back to Suncoast. I had a coworker who would sing it, and anyone who knows this song, like Dean was just saying, his vocals in this, I don't care if you're a male or female, you kind of bring your voice down when you're singing it. You try to imitate him and his voice.
Can we get an impression?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Eric
everybody else does impressions on this show.
No one, just you do them. You're the only one.
Eric does plenty of impressions.
Very badly.
Still does them.
Never again.
Still steps up to the mic.
Hey, I even went up to on YouTube to do it too, which was, oh my God, I was sweating bullets. I was so
up to the mic.
Mortified doing that.
Let's get your Lane Staley, Christy. Come
on. And only if can we get Brad Pitt bells?
No.
So there you go. Also The Wiz for the youngins listening. No idea
you mean the electronics store. Nobody beats the Wiz. Is that what
nobody beats the Wiz? And
okay.
you
go.
See, so in the 90s, and this is what we'll bring it back to Empire Records, which is why it's actually relevant to this episode. That film. In the 90s, we would go to like a Tower Video or the Wiz, and you would be there with a group of friends all night, hanging out, listening to music, and they'd play like this song would be played on on there, and you're just like hanging out in record stores with all your friends, just taking in music. And so this song, when I hear it, when it comes on, it just again transports me to that, and that is a great feeling. And I hope I never ever forget that. Like I hope I always get that emotion and that just that little adrenaline bump when I hear songs like this, and it takes me there. And this song does that. It's just the album's great. I enjoy the entire album, but this is, if you've never heard the song, just check it out. It's definitely.
They will be checking it out on the playlist if they've never heard it, and it's it's a pretty intense song, and it's just one of the. Eric, did we talk about it on our top 5 70s episode, or was it on one of our live shows where somebody said that there is there is a time machine that was invented, and it's music.
Yeah.
Music is the one thing that can take you back. One of the few things, more
Absolutely.
so than
I agree 100%.
a book, and that a music is than a book and a film is music can take you back a direct line and connect you with certain feelings with certain songs, and you can absolutely connect and remember.
And universal.
More so than photos, more so than books, more so than movies, but music, I forgot who said it, but music is literally is a time machine.
Yeah, and that's universal. That's not just that's across the board. That's for everyone. It's not just like you can listen to. I can listen to Bocelli and be taken back. I may not understand.
Yeah, it's all
what
types of
he's
music.
singing. So that's what I'm saying. It's universal, but that's 100%. I would agree with that.
It is a time machine. Okay, my number one was name checked in the original episode, but it was not an honorable mention. But it was this song was snuck in during the conversation when we were talking about stuff that didn't make it. It was not snuck in by me, but it was on my list. And this was from 1998. It hit number 1 on the modern rock tracks, and it's Eve 6. And the song is Inside Out.
We did talk about this song.
We did. It was name checked, but it was never honorable mentioned, and it wasn't by me. This is one of those songs as well. Eve 6 was waiting in line. Here's what we got. Listen to it, enjoy it, and we're gonna move on. And the bass player Max Collins at Eve 6 is a trio. He was like 16 when he wrote it. By the time they got to record it, he was somewhere between 18 and 20. And Inside Out is just one. Again, I'm a guy for the hooks, and this song has got the hook. It's got the groove to it. It's got the vocal. It's catchy. It's just these. I think these songs right here probably epitomize maybe what I was going for, maybe more than the first set. Like when I look at this set, I'm like, this really to me epitomizes it. It was those one-hit wonders that were coming through, and not making big statements, but contributing to that to that patchwork quilt of the music that was going on, which was tentpoled, like we said in the last episode, by the Chili Peppers and all these other groups, but these other ones in the background were filling in the gaps when those singles or those groups were kind of in between albums. You had to have stuff that was coming in, and Eve 6 was just one of those bands that just kind of like, for me, I'm going to say Eve 6 and Sponge, like number 5 and number 1 kind of bookend for me the listening experience of the 90s for me. Yeah, it was about the Pearl Jam and it was about the big albums, but it was about those other songs that just like 70s AM radio, when those one-hit wonders were coming in and catching your ear and then going off, and you never heard from them again. You didn't know who they were. And now with the benefit of the internet, we can look them up and we can find out a little bit about their story. We can find out a little bit about their history. And Eve 6 is just one of those. I got the opportunity to see them in like 2013, somewhere around there. The Endless Summer Tour. It was a bunch of these groups from this era. And of course they played this song and like 2 others, and then they were done and they moved on to the next one. So that's the top. That's our top 5.
Wow.
We've got room for two, for 2. We've got room for 2 honorable mentions. I'm going to wait, because I'm surprised that that there's a group that Christy hasn't mentioned yet. So I'm not sure if they're going to make an honorable mention. I don't know if I should mention it now, and then she'll say,
you can mention it because it might ease my honorable mention.
Yeah, but then you might feel like, I have to pick them because you mentioned it.
No, I'd rather mention
different. It after. I'd rather mention it afterwards, and then you say, I should have mentioned them.
No, that's ridiculous.
So anyway,
no,
we're going to go with 2 honorable mentions each.
Okay.
Eric, what do you got for your first one?
Jesus Christ.
For my first one, I got a really, the reason, well, I mean, we didn't mention it at all obviously in the last 90s episode, but the brainchild of this and the lead singer of this band created the Gorillaz, and that's Damon Albarn and his band Blur.
Yeah. And
they put some great stuff. It's, that sort of Brit pop, the early stuff was like that, sort of recalling the Kinks and, the 60s period. But then later on, they started getting a little bit more experimental, which of course led to, but I think he still I think the band still plays as Blur. I mean, I still think that, they're still making stuff. But the song I chose was Park Life. And the reason I chose this particular track is near and dear to my heart, because there's a sort of a spoken word. It's like a sort of a rap, if you will, not a rap, but it's like a guy like in a very sort of high pitched British voice speaking throughout the song. And it's a British actor by the name of Phil Daniels, who played Jimmy in the movie version of Quadrophenia. So that to me is it speaks to that period and that album, which I've loved so much. And that takes you back to a certain time in your life, and all these little threads that when you see things like this happen, like this guy's working with this guy, and that kind of thing. And it's just a really catchy tune, and as soon as you hear it, you could definitely see the seeds being sown of what he would be doing with Gorillaz, down the road with rappers and other artists of different genres and stuff. So this was a great album from '94. The album it's the title track from Park Life. So that's my first honorable mention.
Alrighty.
Yep.
Christy, honorable mention.
Well, I'm not going to mention the band I think you want me to mention, because you're going to mention them, and that takes a load off of me.
I'm not going to mention them, but
you are going to mention them.
No, I'm not. But go ahead.
You are. I'm going to pick something that you don't even know I'm going to pick.
Awesome.
I'm going to pick.
We'll only know after we listen to the episode.
Again, just a great voice. Another song about alcohol addiction, although not hers. I'm picking Concrete Blonde Joey.
Oh, there you go.
What a great song.
Yep.
You love that song, Dean.
I do love that song. It's one of the best vocals
I know you love that.
It's her vocals are just
Janet Napolitano. Yep, is the lead singer for Concrete Blonde.
And the song was about I think it was her boyfriend though, but they toured together, and he was out. He suffered from alcoholism, but her voice is just killer.
Heart-wrenching vocal.
Yeah,
That's the only way to put it.
If you think you don't know the song, you do. When you hear it on the playlist, you'll be like, "Oh, I know this song. What a great song."
Joey was circling around, but I was just kind of
yeah, you didn't pick it though, huh?
I was kind of leaving it off just
because so much.
It was just one of those ones.
One of your favorites, I see.
Yeah, and from 1990, so it was like really at the no, it was, but I didn't, it was kind of for different reasons, it's kind of
because it was hard. It was very hard to do this.
No, that was from their album Bloodletting. That kind of kicked off. They were kind of a holdover from the 80s, much like REM. Because that was in 1990. That was like right in the beginning. So they were kind of carrying that torch of the alternative stuff, kind of wading through grunge.
No, this only because you said that. I didn't realize that they were that this album came out in the 80s. But I originally, when I was making
this came out in 1990.
No. But when I was originally making my list, I had thrown on Jane Says from Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
And that came out, and I looked, I was like, oh my God, that came out in 87? Like, I think it was like 87. It wasn't in the 90s, but it was very popular in the 90s. And I was like, and I was almost relieved. I'm like, oh, there's one less I have to cut.
I had that with Third Eye Blind. I was going to put Never Let You Go. But it came out in 2000.
Yeah, there was a couple of songs that were
so I was like,
I know.
Too late.
Right on the cusp.
Modest Mouth Float On was on my list. And I'm like, whoa, that didn't come out in the 90s. Like,
that and the Smithereens, Girl Like You was on the cusp, and it was 89. I'm like, okay, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, when songs got cut because they didn't make it in the 90s that I loved, I was like, oh, thank God.
Right. My first honorable mention is another one of these guys that passed through, and this was from 91. So these were early on, but absolutely this song like really kind of puts me back. Toad the Wet Sprocket, All I Want from 1991. What, you had it?
No, I had another song.
It's like this song, the way it starts, doom da da doom da, and it just starts, and you've got really nice shimmering acoustic guitars, a great chorus. It just puts you in it's just one of those great summery songs that you can kind of put on. and Enjoy, and 91. I didn't realize it was that far back when I looked it up. I'm like, wow, this was like an eternity ago for this type of music, but it fit in with all the other stuff that was going on. And first I thought it was Big Head Todd and the Monsters. I thought that's who did it. I thought it was Big Head Todd and the Monsters. And I'm looking it up, and it's like, and it's not coming up. I'm like, no, it's like, it's one of those weird names though. It was Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Yeah, I had Something's Always Wrong. Yeah. I love that song. Something's Always Wrong. That came out from their album Dulcinea was that was the one I had.
Yeah, that's pretty obscure that one. That one's there. So what do you have for your second honorable
Okay, for
mention?
my second, I'm gonna go with. I'm kind of like Christy now. I'm kind of like back and forth. But I got to go with my gut, and it's it was a big hit, and we did mention him in he didn't quite make the list, anybody's list, but he was name dropped, and I think Christy mentioned didn't make her list, but Dave Matthews Band, and that's Crash Into Me.
There you go. We talked about Dave Matthews. Yep,
that's my. Kelly and I, that's a very special song, and I'm not gonna say why, but it's a little personal. But
did you have a car accident? Was she driving and you were driving?
No. It's a whole thing. I'll probably tell you guys at some point, but
they got drunk. They got drunk. The lights were off, crashing into each other.
That's it.
Well, the song is decidedly about a peeping Tom, but that's not what was going on. So, just so you know.
So
but
oh my,
yeah.
Oh,
oh my!
That's exciting. You guys role playing. We appreciate good role playing.
You know what? I'm happy though that some of the echoes of the first episode made it in. We totally didn't just forget about some of that stuff. So Christy, your second honorable mention. What's it going to be?
I want to comment to Eric's honorable mention that Dave Matthews, and I'm going to echo this from the first one. Never. He wasn't part of this genre for me, much like Alanis Morissette wasn't. So I wasn't snubbing him because Under the Table Dreaming is probably one of the greatest albums to ever come out.
What is he to you then? Rock? Folk? I mean, what I'm asking, what was he? He was a part of
very much my reaction to him was what is this? Is it jazz? Is it jam?
Because he's kind of a jam band without being annoying. No offense to jam band, like because he has lyrics and he doesn't go off on crazy tangents that are like 20 minutes long, but I guess more rock jam bandy than he is alternative. That's just my interpretation because I want it to be known. I want it on the record that I'm going to give Dave Matthews Band the Medal of Merit.
Okay, what'd you say? Cut that part out.
No, but he's decidedly more. I think a lot of people who are really into that kind of stuff, like the Deadheads and things like that, don't really take him seriously because he is slightly more on.
That's because they smoke
the mainstream. He's more pop, and he's more. But he did some amazing stuff. This album,
he's incredibly talented.
He developed his following through touring, like the Dead did.
And what a band! I mean, who has a band like this? I mean, it's just him and the guy that plays electric guitar is not even a full-time member. Tim Reynolds, he just comes on whenever he needs electric guitar in the song. He just guest stars on the record. But Dave is like it's acoustic guitar. You got a violin, you got a sax player, and a drummer and a bass player, and that's it. That's the band. And I thought that was just, to me, it just reminded me of bands like Traffic and that kind of stuff back in the day. That sort of hybrid. What is this? But but alternative. I mean, it's different. And it was exciting at the time. Crash is an amazing record. 41, Say Goodbye, Little Trippin' Billies. Yeah, it's the whole album is just fantastic. But
no, great pick. It just not doesn't fall into the genre for me. But Dave Matthews is amazing.
All right. Yeah. What does fall into the genre for you? Your second honorable mention. What'll it be? What'll it be? You have like sheets of paper. You're supposed to have 5 written down and 2 honorable mentions. Why are you shuffling
You have
through
no
documents?
idea how hard this was.
This isn't the Constitution. It should be 1 page.
It's not 1 page.
Who prints stuff out?
Professionals. Yeah, you know who does? I bet you the professor Nick Leshy does.
Okay. Well, Nick hand writes it, or he dictates it, and his secretary types it out.
Okay.
Listen, no rush. It's only a podcast episode. People are just going to listen until you're ready.
All right. Yeah, I mean, go make a cup of tea. Come back. Let me know.
Fuck. Okay, just to let you know, these were supposed to have been chosen beforehand, right?
This was really,
just really
putting
it
hard.
out there that these should have been,
Harvey Danger flagpole.
Nice. There you go. It wasn't so.
I knew it.
Was it?
It made the list.
That was on my list. That was on my list for the last time. See, you did a good thing. You get a bell.
I'm not sick, but I'm not well. I get a bell.
You get a bell.
Just a song of the time.
Yes.
Just fun. Mm-hmm. There's no way this song comes on and you're not bopping and singing it, and
Amen.
just enjoying.
And the lyrics are so dark.
But again, it's
this song for such an up-tempo song. They're dark.
But that a lot of that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of bands chose to do that.
Yeah,
the music was so lively,
like in this pop song,
Well,
that's how they snuck it in there. Speaking of the period,
Bittersweet Symphony, like I said, was the same thing. There was a lot of songs back then in the 90s where they were talking about some seriously dark shit, and you're singing it. And if you actually stop to think about what you're singing about, you're like, "Whoa, what? Huh?" Like what's going? Yeah. But I just remember being at Glen Island on the beach and this song playing all the time, and it's just a fun song. And again, this is kind of like Joey. If you may not think you know the song as soon as it comes on. If you were alive in the 90s,
you won't know it from the title Flagpole.
Because it was, and they even said it's an awful title because people refer to it as I'm not sick, but I'm not well.
Yeah,
they call it that song because the guy was like, it was the dumbest title he could have given it. Like,
but back then they were always trying to be clever,
being arty, being artsy, and it's just like, don't do that. Just give it a name that people will know, and it might have even done better. But I went with that.
No,
so I didn't go with.
The lead singer actually became a music promoter, and he works for a record label.
Wasn't he like an air traffic controller for a while or something?
No, he parlayed it into the business, but not with. But yeah, Harvey Danger was the name of the group. Flagpole City.
Can I guess
That's
who?
A great choice.
Can I guess who? Are you going to go? Well, after you go, I'll guess.
Can I go?
Thought it was
can I do my final? Yeah.
I mean, you can, but
I'm going to stick with my original one, even though Eric scared the shit out of me with his number 5. I'm like, here we go.
Goddamn Lex Luthor.
Yeah. I was like, here we go. Like, and he was going, this is their second album. And I'm like, here we go. But I have to. I'm going to leave it. Blind Melon Galaxy from the same album from Soup.
I almost picked it.
But Galaxy was the single that was just, when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, there's more to this band than No Rain and the B Girl and the twirling and the trippy video of them in the fields.
You could blame Christy.
Blame me.
Because I almost picked Galaxy. I was trying to going back and forth with you and the two.
Wait, why?
And I thought I thought of you because of the stuff that who's been posting the stuff about gun control and all this stuff. On Facebook.
I have.
Well, there you go. I was thinking of you because this song is about that. Toes across the floor. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, so I chose that one instead. But I almost went with Galaxy too.
Galaxy is about his drug addiction. It's about his struggle with heroin. Lyrics like, can I do the things I want to do that I don't do because of you? And I'll take a left and I'll second guess into a total mess. So he was really talking about his addiction in Galaxy, but he was couching it in the car that he used to have when he was young. And it's just, it was a harder edge than No Rain and some of that, and even Tones of Home, which was on their first album, which are great songs, but Galaxy really that song just was kind of hitting a lot harder and showing that Blind Melon was going to have more to offer, that they weren't just doing the second album of let's repeat the same thing again.
That's right.
Let's kind of cash in. They were really going for something different. And Galaxy to me was like, oh wow. I was like, holy smoke.
And
and I really loved that song. So,
and nobody noticed at the time.
Yeah.
It came out.
It came out and Soup was like, it flopped. And like Eric said, he died a couple months later, and then that was it for Blind. They stopped promoting.
He died like 3 weeks later.
They stopped promoting the album after he died.
Again, and we talked about this in the first one, the parallels of the 90s and the 70s, but it got mentioned so many times again in this episode of these artists, and whether it was because, like Eric said, fame came too quickly, and maybe not knowing how to handle it, and also having that just that normal angst that people tend to have in these early years. But how many of these artists that we talk about where we, like Dean just read the lyrics, and this guy's writing a song about heroin, his heroin addiction, and last episode I brought up Mad Season, and he's writing to heroin, and where it's kind of an odd thing to sit here talking about this music and how impactful it is and how much we enjoy it, and there's so much pain behind so much of it.
It was a tough decade for this.
It really was. I mean, it's
the 70s being the decade of excess. The 90s, it was heroin. Heroin was just taking everybody down. In the 70s, everyone was doing coke. They're smoking pot. They're doing all this stuff.
We lost a lot of people in the 70s as well.
In the 90s, but in the 90s, they were all dying in the 90s. It's like they were all just dying in the 90s. It was crazy, but
it was
decidedly. That's a great list. That's a great list.
Pretty intense. Can I guess who you thought I was going to have on?
Sure.
Collective Soul.
No.
Oh.
Although they were on my list. I thought for sure
Everclear
was going to be on your list. Like, I will buy you a new house or Santa Monica or...
Everclear's on, it just didn't make it.
But I'm surprised do it for you. You had a second chance.
I'm surprised you didn't pick Bare Naked Ladies one week. That's on my list.
I used to listen to that song endlessly.
That song's great.
It's got the rap lyrics. It's
fun.
That's early 2000s.
No, it's not. I wrote it down. It 90s. Is 1998. And then that guy, didn't he become a heroin addict too? Like later on?
Our feel good songs, Eric? Was that on our top 5 feel good songs? I feel like we talked about it.
It was.
Yeah, it was. That's why. Yeah, it was on our top 5 feel good songs. Yeah. So go back and listen to that episode, won't you?
And check Gordon. I would have picked something off of Hello City from Gordon. I love that song. And Brian Wilson.
If I had $1 million. If I had $1 million.
That's a good song. And I didn't bring up Oasis, even though I went to Snow Oasis.
Yeah, again, still, I thought for sure Red Hot Chili Peppers would have made an appearance. I thought,
I did go to Snow Oasis. You laugh. It was like I forgot what ski. Snow Oasis, and they had a concert.
See the Gallagher brothers would kick the shit out of each other while you're skiing down the slope, each other with guitars. That's gonna do it. So we're gonna put all this stuff into the original playlist that we have on Spotify. So we're going to re-add this stuff. Join us on social media at Instagram and Facebook. Let us know what we missed or what your favorites were from the 90s. We will add that. We will crowdsource this playlist and have it grow and expand even further. So our sequel, Christy.
I dare say we nailed it.
So
yes, Christy.
I'm anybody that adds songs, you'll add it to the playlist?
If they're from the 90s and they're alternative, yeah. Not you, though.
So, but what if...
New people.
Aliases of mine.
With verified accounts.
Alias. Secret life of Christy Cuomo.
I'm gonna, Eric, by the end of tomorrow, I'm gonna have 62 Instagram accounts.
You had your chance and we did it. And we've done a sequel, so that's gonna do it for
go pay people.
The 90s, top alternative hits of the 90s part 2. A lot of fun. It's interesting to revisit because we never do that. We kind of do our top 5 and then we kind of close the book on it. And then we look at what our next top 5 was going to be. So it was very interesting to revisit something and kind of reconsider and have a second crack at it. I don't know if we'll ever do one again. I think this might be the only one that we kind of keep it special, because this is one of it is our top most downloaded episode of all time. So I think we'll leave this one as a special standalone, and it'll be the only one that ever gets a sequel. Yeah. Fair enough. Voted on.
I think it's, like I said, I think we nailed it.
I second it.
Good.
Let's move on to the Brad Pitt bell.
There is no Brad Pitt bell. Nope. Sorry. There might be a Brad Pitt like silent light switch that we turn off, but you won't never hear it and you'll never know. So thank you, Christy, for joining us on this and completing the circle from your very first episode to joining us for the sequel episode. We hope everybody enjoys this playlist. It'll be on Spotify. Eric, of course, as always, thank you. Mm-hmm. And for both of them, this has been Dean asking you, or no, it's not asking you to please be kind and rewind. We're going to catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.